A lot of great music coming to Montreal, and some really bad ideas for bike paths. It's time for another podcast. Not quite live from Forget the Box Studios in Montreal. This is the FTB Podcast, the only podcast you're listening to right now. Welcome to the podcast. We are recording this on Sunday evening, September the 10th, Hannah's birthday, 2017. Happy birthday, Hannah. Woo! I'm your host, Jason C. McLean, and we have a smaller panel this time.
Hey, it's Ron Roxtar back for some more great talk on the podcast.
And we're doing a kind of between two ferns thing here, but this is, it's just one fern, so it means we're going to be serious. I'm not just going to try and, stand there while Obama feels nervous talking to me or anything like that. Okay, so on this podcast, we have an interview coming up in a little bit of a very interesting interview. But first, we're going to start talking about bike paths. Now, if you know Montreal, you know the area of town I live in. Atwater Avenue, when you're going down towards Metro Lionel Gru, there's an underpass. Now, a few years ago, there was a cyclist killed in an underpass, and Projet Montréal opposition and a lot of other groups started going to the Coderre administration insisting that they make bike safety better. But instead of putting up some sort of barricade to create a bike lane on the street, they moved the bike lane to the sidewalk, which now causes a problem. They moved the danger cyclists were facing in the street to now create a danger for cyclists and pedestrians in the sidewalk. I spoke with Projet Montréal City Counselor for St-Henri, Pointe-St-Charles, and Little Burgundy, Craig Sauvé, and he had some very strong opinions about this. Let's watch that now. So we're here with Craig Sauvé. Now, tell me your initial reactions to when you first saw the that oddly painted bike path.
Complete and utter bewilderment, and then a little bit of panic because I think it's very dangerous. Yeah, water bike path, how they've constructed it. There are a few that I knew they were sort of coming to do, and then when you see it in real life, you say they can't be serious. They must, you have a little bit of faith at the end of the day in the administration, but they really are way out of reason with this one. It's very dangerous the way they set it up. I mean, they're basically setting up future collisions between pedestrians and cyclists. Yeah. Perhaps worse if the cyclists have to veer out of the way at the last second into traffic to avoid hitting a pedestrian. You can't, on a steep decline like that, over 5%, you can't just tell people the cyclists to take the sidewalk, because, if they ride down the sidewalk, they'll fly down the sidewalk, which means they'll hit somebody. And just the next day, I was just walking by, and I could see, a dozen people walking up and down that side of the street, and I was like, oh my goodness, this doesn't make any sense. It's just so dangerous. Yeah,
it's Atwater. Just to clarify, it's below René Lévesque, but before Lionel Gru, right?
Exactly. So between René Lévesque and St. Antoine Street, it all comes from. Which is, I guess, a laudable goal, which is securing all the underpasses in Montreal. Yeah. It's something we asked for. It's something that was in reaction to the tragic death of Mathilde Blais, who passed away in an underpass, Saint-Denis. That was a few years ago. There have been some other, tragic deaths of cyclists in these such areas. So there is a program to secure the underpasses. And so when they made the announcement, we said, well, we're happy that they're going to be doing these things. Well, we can't wait to see what they're going to do. And basically, they've really let us down because they're not so much securing the underpasses. They're putting paint and saying it's secure. They've not done the real job. And in order to secure places, you have to give cyclists their space as well. Because if you don't give it the space, they're going to take it, and it will be the same zero-sum game. It will be the same thing that they'll go under the underpass as before, and that's what's going to happen at Atwater. You say, okay, either go down the hill and potentially fly down the hill, because some people will not think and do that if they've gone the first time, or go where you were before. If I'm a cyclist, there's no way I'm taking the sidewalk, because I know Atwater, I'm from here. Yeah. I'm taking the road, so you've done nothing for me. Yeah. So you've done nothing, because I want to drive. I'm not going to get and walk off my bike. Why should cyclists have to get off their bike and walk when cars have the same amount of space? So if you want to be secure, get off your bike. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Cyclists want to be able to move, particularly if we've already got some sort of momentum. We want to break our momentum because it's more energy we're going to have to spend later. It's just a natural human reaction. So
Yeah.
these kind of setups just don't work. And I know there's more coming like that. They're in the city's paperwork that they put forward before the vote on contracts for these such security things. They give us a few special types of cases like this where they're going to have to deviate onto sidewalks, and the only reason they have to deviate on sidewalks is because they refuse to give up a little more space from cars to bikes. And so the real solution at the end of the day is a better sharing of street space. It makes life much more secure for not only just cyclists but also pedestrians and drivers. All the drivers I know, they always appreciate when the space is properly set out and separated. Everybody's happy.
Yeah,
Everything's clear. There's no conflict. And so that's what I think we have to go toward. And in the case of Atwater, 3 lanes each side. 3. One of which sort of disappears at St. Antoine to be a turning lane. That very lane, you could easily give up space for cyclists.
Yeah, put a barrier. But you mean like a concrete barrier? Like put a concrete barrier there, you're talking, obviously.
Concrete or, plastic poles or whatever, but separate it.
Yeah.
Not just with paint, like with actual structure. So you could do concrete, you could do other things. Like poles are not expensive, just putting sort of bollards down the side with a little bit of paint. That is definitely will separate people, cyclists from drivers, and it's very cheap.
Yeah.
So you don't have to construct anything out of concrete either.
Yeah.
It's always better sometimes to have that concrete because it's a little more nicer, a little more clear, or have sometimes plantation like they do along the Maison. It's really nice, but it's not necessary all the time.
Yeah.
So that would be the clear solution. So I'm not the only one that had these reactions with regard to Atwater. A lot of cyclists, when they saw it, their eyes bolted out of their heads because they're like, this will not work, this is dangerous. The people who walk up and down Atwater also know it's dangerous. So
Yeah. Well, there was another photo you that I saw you sharing too. It was Monte de Liesse, I believe.
yeah,
And that
Monte de Liesse under the 520.
and they have the bike path literally, I think, cutting across a lane of traffic and then going through the sidewalk where there's no even like on ramp to get to it. Is that what did I see that right?
Exactly. So again, it's just this sort of, if you don't mind me saying, it's kind of half-assed, it's kind of half-hearted. We look, it's like, look, we painted a sidewalk with a little, on the sidewalk, little bike logo next to the foot logo, the pedestrian logo, and then to get to that part, there was some paint with some, with arrows and a little cyclist logo or a bike logo, and it heads right to the sidewalk, and there's no entry point, there's no dip in the sidewalk to even allow you to get on the sidewalk. So you have to pull a sort of X Games kind of jump onto the sidewalk if you're rolling, but that's completely and utterly ridiculous to assume that a cyclist is going to do that. The other assumption might be, well, the cyclists just have to get off there. Okay, no, we'll get off in the middle of the lane on Monte de Liesse during rush hour, and then we'll lift our bike up on the sidewalk. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that isn't.
It's just bad planning, and it's not serious.
Yeah. Is it the central city? So it's the central city that's deciding all of this, right?
Yeah, because the center city does everything that's sort of shared resources or shared responsibility on the island. So roads that are arterial between boroughs, as much as the bikes network that's arterial between boroughs and stuff. So similar how Trans Canada is a federating autoroute. Well, the federating routes are also bike paths in Montreal. So Montreal downtown is in charge of all the bike path development in Montreal.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us. And I'm sure this is something that a lot of cyclists, but also pedestrians. I'm a pedestrian myself. I'm concerned about this. I don't want to be hit by a bike while I'm walking down on Atwater, as much as they don't want to be hit by cars. It's
well, that's it, And I mean, as pedestrians, we have the leisure to maybe listen to our headphones and walk down Atwater. You might not want to now, because you might have a blistering, speeding bike coming down towards you.
Yeah.
So, these kind of things too, and really, I think honestly, a better sharing of the road will not only make pedestrians' lives better and cyclists, but also drivers. Things are very clear, and they're sort of separated, and the drivers can feel happy in their lanes, and the cyclists can feel happy in their lanes, and everybody can go along their merry way.
You know, I have to say, I agree with Craig Sauvé. I think that's a terrible idea.
And if you see the pictures that they've shown on the news of the drawings on the you know, it's you see a picture of a bicycle and then like a person walking. It almost makes it confusing. As if you're new to Montreal, you're like, oh, am I allowed to go here or not? Like, it's just a danger waiting to happen.
Yeah, well, knowing we were going to talk about this, I happen to live very close to this, so I said, I'm going to go check it out for myself, see what it's like. I saw some people walking with their bikes up the bike path, as Craig mentioned, like walking with their bikes. But I saw some people just like driving and barreling down the sidewalk. Because that's now their bike path, and I had to move out of the way a few times. Like, it really is a dangerous situation.
I think it's dangerous for both bicyclists and pedestrians, both. I mean, both of them are in danger of something happening for sure. And, for the footage that we've seen or heard from both, people, no one seems to be happy about this decision. Yeah. It's
the Coderre administration just trying to put a Band-Aid on something where you need like a cast. Like, as Craig pointed out, there are 3 lanes on each side going down Atwater. Just take one lane, put some put some little sticks or something cement, and have that be the bike path. And bikes can go down safely. Cars can go down. Maybe have a little bit less cars. And pedestrians, I actually think about walking up that hill, because I've been out partying in St-Henri, sometimes like 2 a.m, like coming up that hill. It's not the easiest hill to walk up. It's
terrible.
It's terrible. And now like having to watch out for, imagine like a senior, for example, doing their exercise, walking up that hill, and then there's like a cyclist coming down, gonna hit them. And it's not even like traffic's going in one way, it's 2 ways.
And what if it is, as you say, late at night in a situation where maybe the bicycle doesn't have the proper lights on it or reflectors, and an older person coming up and they're coming down, and I don't have to go any further, right? I mean,
but the one that really that's the one that's close to home. But there's one on Côte de Liesse, which was also mentioned. There's the sign signaling the bike path going to the sidewalk, but it actually cuts across a lane of traffic to go to the sidewalk. And where the arrow points on the sidewalk, there's not even a little like ramp where they can easily go up. It's actually literally a bump. So they would have to dismount, get off the bike, and then go up to the sidewalk. It means they have to get off the bike in the street that they just crossed. Like, I think it's just it's the whole concept of like legislation on the back of a cocktail napkin, which is endemic of the Coderre administration. I think it's also just obsessive support for cars above all else.
Well, I mean, have these politicians gone to the actual corners or the streets and looked at the situation themselves, or are they just getting feedback from some inspector that gave them this, information?
I don't know. I mean, I guess their process is not that revealed. I imagine they're just drawing on the map. They're like, oh, here's a problem. Can we put another lane? Oh, no, there's a lot of cars that go through there. Let's just move it to the sidewalk. Like, that seems to be their solution, their response to the death of a cyclist, because it really is unsafe. If you're driving in traffic and it's like fast in an underpass, it really isn't safe. So yeah, there needed to be something done, but it's also cheaper too, I guess. They're not, instead of using a little bit of cement or some like little plastic things, they're just using paint.
Right. Well, I mean, next is to put the cars in the same lane.
Yeah, exactly.
Cars, bicyclists, and pedestrians in the same lane. That's next.
Yeah, honestly, when I first saw these photos, it looked like one of those compilations on the internet. Like you had one job of like city workers messing up and not doing their job properly and doing ridiculous drawing directions on the ground, but it turned out to actually be real.
Yeah, you think it's a joke, and then you're like, no, actually, it's not a joke. This is reality. And then you have to question it. What's the next step?
I think the next step is to get rid of the Coderre. But
okay, that's a bit intense. But just for this situation,
to basically have people in the public to speak up and basically say, no, we don't want this. Like everyone, not pedestrians too. Like now they're on my turn. I'm a pedestrian. Like, no, I don't want this. Write your city, your officials, the city of Montreal, and your local city councilor. Like Craig's a city councilor, but this is a decision made at the central city. So write them and say, no, we don't want this. Create a bike lane from one of the lanes of traffic, and stay off leave the sidewalk for us poor pedestrians, right? It's a bad decision. There's plenty of bad decisions though, and good decisions coming up in our news roundup segment.
News Roundup.
There was a sad scene recently in Montreal. It's an all too familiar scene. It's involving a Caleche horse, and you saw this image, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been all over, and it's, as you said, it's not a first time. This is a constant thing that's happening. Very sad and unfortunate that it seems as if every, once in a while we have either a horse collapsing, or as what happened probably last year, you saw one horse went wild. He literally lost his mind, and he started to, parade and take off with passengers in the back. He was stampeding down the street, and and today or this week we had a horse collapse.
For those of you with watching the video version, you're seeing the horse collapse right there. It's right in front of Notre Dame Basilica, like a big tourist landmark. Lots of tourists around. Really gives a really sad image. Really gives a bad name to the city, but it's not. But also a few years ago, there was a big push to get Caleches banned, and Denis Coderre said he was going to ban Caleches after a certain period of time. Then he spoke to. There was I think he was sued by some of the Caleche drivers, and he said we're not doing it. But now
it was almost like a town hall meeting, because he was going to do it, and then they came and said, "Well, no, this is our job. It's our livelihood. It's a tradition." And then I think he felt tradition, Montreal. I can't make it look bad, and I think he chickened out. I think he chickened out of this deal to stop the Caleches. And you know what? One thing too, just quickly, if you look at some of the pictures that we're probably maybe going to show you, the conditions of these horses, the equipment that they're using on them, and the barn. I don't even know if you can call it a barn, where they're bringing them to stay at the end of the night. I mean, it's worse than what you would see in some refugee camps. Literally, it's terrible.
And they were making the argument that the horses would have to be killed, but no, the horses wouldn't have to be killed. You could just send the horses to some better place, and maybe you could retrain some of these drivers, have them drive like a automated taxi type. Like there was an automated Caleche type thing without a horse. Train them. They can figure out how to do that. But of course, one thing Valérie Plante, who's running against Denis Coderre, said outright: if she gets elected mayor, done. Forget it. Caleches are we're not going to use horses on Caleches anymore.
She said that.
Yeah.
Guess what?
What?
She's going to get my vote.
There you go.
She's got one more vote. Okay, so she's got 2 votes. It may seem extreme just to vote for someone for Caleches, but it's torture, right? I mean, it's basically animal torture is what it is, and the city almost endorsing this animal torture. If these guys,
it's not the only time. The rodeo. I mean, that's
another situation.
Denis Coderre had a big. First of all, it failed.
The rodeo failed.
Didn't work because this has nothing to do with our cultural heritage, and it was a big drain. And the thing is, it's cruel. We're not Calgary. Even in Calgary, there's people saying it's cruel to the animals.
Yeah.
I think between that and the pit bull ban, I think maybe Denis Coderre doesn't like animals.
You almost have to start to ask that question. Yeah. And I think it's great when a city like Calgary is starting to rethink the whole, bull riding and what they actually do to get these bulls to, they're literally hitting, causing injury to this for a guy to try to stay on. I mean,
exactly. It's like the fact that the Coderre would put that as part of our heritage is really dumb. I mean, it's not as dumb as maybe shooting guns at a hurricane, which is our next story in Florida, Hurricane Irma. First of all, I just want to say, our hearts go out to all the people in Florida and in Texas and people suffering through this. I think we can all say that.
And I have many friends in Florida.
Yeah, well, Montreal has a strong connection with Florida. I think we all know a few people in Florida. All our friends, just stay safe. Hopefully, by the time this airs, the hurricane will have been done. But there's always room for something a little ridiculous to look at it. There was somebody created as a joke, a Facebook group, to encourage people to shoot their guns at the hurricane, or Hurricane Irma. And of course it was a joke, but 45,000 people signed up. And this is Florida. And all the law enforcement officials, I think we can show a tweet on the screen right now for some of these people, basically saying, please do not shoot your guns at the hurricane, because not only will the guns not affect the hurricane, it's quite possible the bullets might come right back at you or at someone else. And I mean, is it the fact that it was obviously a joke? I mean, how many of those people do you think signed up as a joke to the Facebook group?
I'm sure some did it as a joke. The saddest part is the people who signed up and take this real. The people who are very pro-gun and believe in walking down the street with loaded guns and the gun enthusiasts.
The gun enthusiasts,
that's the saddest part. And it's even sadder. No matter what the law enforcement are going to tell them, some of these gun enthusiasts guarantee you are going to be out there thinking they can stop this hurricane with their
guns. They're not
guaranteed.
Even if they don't think they can stop it, they're still going to do it, but they're going to forget the fact that it's a hurricane and it blows stuff back. Like, did you experience the? I guess you were in the plateau. Did you experience the microburst that happened in Montreal?
No, I didn't experience the microburst.
Yeah,
I wish I had.
I didn't either. Well, NDG Park, Girard Park experienced it, and all the trees were ripped
terrible.
down.
It was terrible. I saw the footage, but I didn't. But I saw what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't get it.
But imagine like a full hurricane like that. It's almost absurd what that could be. But it's about as absurd as being well, I don't know if this is absurd, but it's still kind of funny. Stephen King's It is coming back as a new film. And there's a group of clowns protesting the fact that it gives a bad image to clowns. Now, I kind of think that maybe certain clowns had a bad image already, and that's where Stephen King got his idea from. Like, I don't think he was the first killer clown.
Well, we'd have to research it to see who's the first killer clown. The Joker.
The Joker, yeah.
The Joker.
Like, I love clowns can be great, but like, clowns can also be, like, there's some of them are fun, but some of them look kind of scary.
They do have that, and there's been situations where the clowns come out in a circus and they're funny and they're having balloons, but the kids see a big guy with funny hair and makeup, and they actually do get a little traumatized just because they're not used to it. They're not young and they don't understand.
Yeah.
So should
it be protested?
Be protested? I mean, well,
the book's been around for 30 years or something? Like,
yeah, at least.
There's already been a movie.
We could start to take everything. I mean, we could take, as I said, Orphan as another horror film. And when that came out, a lot of orphanages and foster home organizations wanted to ban that movie because they said it gives orphans a bad name. Okay, I mean, we have Transformers, right?
Yeah.
You have the Autobots and,
Decepticons.
Decepticons. So now, are we going to stop toys? Cars, I mean, because...
Yeah, I mean, I think...
where does it...
Well, there's a difference for example, if you're picking on, like, if it, for example, picks, like, one race and it makes one race look bad. That I understand. Like, you should not be making a particular race of people look bad or a gender or something like that. A profession, maybe even, but as far as clowning, it's not necessarily saying that all the clowns are bad. It's saying that this particular clown is bad. And he's using the clown profession to do that. I mean... If you have a film where there's like somebody who's like a cook that becomes a serial killer, they're obviously not saying that all cooks are dangerous.
Right. I mean, there's always, let's say, one bad apple in the bunch.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean everybody. Where do we draw political correctness is another question I would put to this.
Well, I don't think this is a matter of that. I think that's a little bit, because I think if you want to talk about like representation of races and stuff, it's one thing. But if you want to talk about a particular profession, and it's not a profession that's already marginalized, like for example, making fun of sex workers, for example, that's a profession that's already been marginalized. Like that is maybe there's a problem with that. But making fun of clowns, I'm not so sure, because that's not a profession that's being targeted by police or by anything like that.
And this is not the first time that they've done it. It's been done twice before.
It's a classic, yeah.
So it's not the first time. It's like all of a sudden, like, whoa, we better get worried. Well, we've done this twice before. There's been 2 things already made. I mean,
plus, there's also speaking of clowns too. There's also that insane clown posse. The Juggalos are marching. You hear this? They're marching on Washington D.C. They're protesting like a far right march.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't hear
I'd say that. That's a whole...
Okay. That's another podcast.
They like to dress like clowns, too. It's a whole other podcast. I'll put something we could do a whole podcast on, but in fact, because it's huge, is Pop Montreal. And that's happening. Are you planning to check out some of the shows?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, I'm glad you mentioned Pop Montreal. It's another, smaller festival, but it's still getting bigger. And the thing is, if you're watching this podcast, you've got to go and see Freddie Varey and the Foundation. This guy is... a funk master, soul R&B, hip-hop, gospel, everything you want under the sun. His show is going to kill it at Pop Montreal this year. Freddie Varey and the Foundation.
Freddie Varey and the Foundation. I remember I saw the Deers at Pop Montreal. You ever see that?
Yeah, you see. I mean, so they get really good names.
And they have some up-and-coming acts, too. It's pretty much, from what I remember, it's every bar on Saint Laurent. Like, you can't really, like, you can, like, all the bars that are show bars, that aren't show bars, like Barfly, which is the bar that everyone gets their start at because they'll book out. I've booked shows there. Like it's a great bar, a great little small dive bar, but they have everything from that up to like huge venues.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit of something for everybody in a way, and kind of what you want to see and how you want to see it.
Yeah. And sometimes what they'll do is they'll annex a big act that's already coming into town. Like they did with Beck one year, make it part of the festival, but really it's something, put someone playing at the Bell Center. But who was supposed to play at the Bell Center recently was Lady Gaga, but she didn't.
No, Gaga canceled. Now, I actually had a ticket for Lady Gaga. I was going to be general admission on the floor. I was very excited. Loved the new album. Seen Gaga before. She's a class act performer. Hours before, literally 2-3 hours before, the show is postponed. She puts it on her Twitter account. Now, here's the thing. There were some people who had not only slept out overnight or been waiting all day. The couple that was first in line had a tent and had camped out 2 days at the Bell Center.
Wow.
To learn just 2 or 3 hours before that the show was postponed. One of the Bell Center security even told me that there was many tears cried when they had to inform people. But Gaga, I think we're going to show a picture here on the screen, was so cool. On her Twitter account, she announced the hotel she was staying at and said that the fans could come there and she was going to give them free pizza.
And she did.
And she was good on her word. And not only did she give free pizza. Now,
did you get the pizza?
I just got there just as they finished the pizza.
Oh.
I just missed the slice. But the coolest part, and this is something that you don't hear acts doing, not only did she give pizza, this wasn't so much in the media, she signed a pile of autographed photos. She even put it on her Instagram, showed video of her doing that, gave it to the hotel security, and then they went out and distributed autographed photos for the hundreds of fans who basically blocked the street singing songs of Lady Gaga and partying. They brought the concert to Gaga. And so they got free autographed pictures, free pizza. She's a mega star. Who's doing this?
Yes.
They cancel the show. Who's doing this?
No, a lot of people don't. We were talking about the Guns N' Roses show that got canceled halfway through, and there was a riot. Yeah, but that's the thing is, you got to give something, because it's not just getting your ticket refunded. People change their lives for shows like that.
People travel. Let's say someone flew from Boston to Montreal, rented a hotel, talked with a couple that spent 2 days sleeping overnight to see the show. So I think it's
someone rents a limo, for example. They want to go in style. It's also there's a whole other industry tons of industries that rely on a concert like that. There aren't really, like the restaurant industry, the hotel industry, but the
hotel industry big time.
I wish she helped the pizza industry. So that's
she did, and I think again I give props to, and I think a lot of other artists should follow suit with that, with being good to your fans. Garth Brooks, he just is doing some shows in Calgary, and when they configured the stage, he realized that there were sections in that arena that he's playing that they could add seats. So they added the seats on the day of the show and sold them to fans for $30.
Wow, that's
$30 for Garth Brooks.
Impressive.
And he says it's not even obstructed view.
One artist that's definitely not cutting back on any shows in Quebec is a famous artist who's been around for a while. It's Shawn Phillips, and I had the chance to speak with Shawn Phillips, and now Hannah Besseau has this report.
Folk legend Shawn Phillips is currently on tour across Quebec. Originally from Texas and currently living in Kentucky after a long stay in South Africa, Quebec audiences really seem to get his music. It's a tour across Quebec. You're generally very well received here in Quebec. I'm just wondering, do you think there's a particular reason why you seem to go over very well here, a special connection?
I got to tell you, I get that question a lot. I'll tell you what, I think it's probably because the music is very melodical. It's not, the music that I do is not formula. I try to tell a story in a song. I try to write from a direct experience. So it's a joke, but some of my songs, have choruses, but the majority of songs just try and tell a story, because I don't really like writing choruses, because choruses are for people who didn't understand what you said the first time. But I think it's the fact that the music is very musical. It's very melodic, and then because they like the music, even though they may not understand the words, they will go to the trouble to translate the words, and then they realize that I'm not singing, you know, she's my baby and I love her so much and I'm going to die if I don't get my dog back. You know, that kind of thing. They realize I'm singing about, I'm trying to sing about life and how we approach it and, you know, and what's the best path for each individual. And I mean, I just try and take my 74 years and take that experience and put it into an articulation that people will understand.
The members of the band he is touring with are all from Quebec as well. He has been working with them for 4 years.
They're all Quebecois, but the thing is that all of the guys in the band are professionals. But one of the guys in the band is the rhythm guitar player, Serge Leduc. Serge is a high-level real estate developer. He deals in buildings in Hong Kong and Japan and stuff like that. The drummer is an iCloud data security expert. And the other two guys in the band are both computer specialists at a 7th level. So, you know, these guys, this is not really your normal band. But you have to know how we got together. They sent me a video. They made a video of Woman. And they sent me the video. They sent the video to my manager that was my manager at the time. And he sent it to me, and I looked at it, and I know they thought, I would look at the video and I'd go, oh, nice video, thank you very much, blah, 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 and I'm gone. Yeah. Okay. Instead, I listened to them play, and I said, hey, these guys are not too shabby. So I called them up and I said, hey, you guys want to do some gigs together? And they went, shit, yeah, man, are you kidding? So that's how we got together.
Phillips has been releasing albums since the 1960s. His latest CD, Continuance, is available on his tour.
Because I have to tell you, I will not bullshit you. This is probably one of the best CDs you will ever hear in your lifetime.
Okay, that's.
I'm dead serious about that. I mean, it is an extraordinary. It's very much like Second Contribution because it starts and it doesn't finish till the end of the CD. Everything flows into the next song, and the players on it are just phenomenal, absolutely amazing players. There's a guy named Sebastian Persini who is the drummer, a South American man. It's the funkiest drummer I've ever played with, and I've played with some serious drummers, man. Yeah. And then there's Anthony Crawford, who is a jazz fusion bassist, and keyboards are played by a man named Brockett Parsons. Brockett Parsons is Lady Gaga's main keyboard guy.
Phillips has never shied away from politics in his music, and feels it is essential for those in the spotlight to be politically outspoken. This carries through to his new CD.
We all understand that today the world is being directed by the corporations. Yeah, I mean that's all there is to it. Our lives are dependent on what they want the world to be like, and I mean I have a gut feeling that that is going to change in the next decade. And it's just because you've got a lot of money doesn't mean that you have the right to say this is the direction that humanity is going to go.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about messages and political things. There's a man there's a song on the new CD called "Man with a Gun," and I wrote that for Bernie Sanders. Because I think Bernie Sanders. I mean, we have to look at countries like Canada, Finland, Sweden, Norway. Almost every country in the world has, a functional national health service. True. The United States is probably the only country in the world that doesn't. And the trick to this is you've got to take the profit out of medicine.
Like the sunlight in the day, he will never go away. He is holding on to all his power. And in the hour of your need, he is only feeling greed, and he simply wants to see you cower. Till a shadow of yourself is all that's really left. It is time for you to take some action.
Phillips is still involved in many musical collaborations. Yeah, you've played, well, I mean, you currently are, but you've over the years, you've played with some rather huge names. I mean, you did some vocals even with the Beatles one time, right?
Yeah, I sang. Jason, we were a bunch of musicians hanging out getting stoned in England. That's all it was. How musos hang out. And Paul and George invited us to the studio. I was with a friend of mine named Steve Saunders, and Dave Crosby was there. And Paul invited us to the studio, and we were all sat around, and they were doing different things for different tracks. And at one point, Paul just spoke up and he said, "Oh, we got to do background vocals on Lovely Rita. Hey, now Shawn, Dave, let's do this." And he told us what to do, and we went in and did it. And then we came back out and smoked another joint. I tell you, you're not conscious of making any kind of musical history or anything like that. It was just a moment of a bunch of musicians hanging out. That was the bottom line.
Yeah, but how does it feel that other people look back on it as musical history? Other people look back on it like, my God, you were there at the time with all those people and stuff like that. Like, yeah. I know it's a different experience than you had, but how do you feel about other people seeing it that way?
Well, I guess they think it was a momentous event, but it was really pretty normal at the time.
Yeah. For more on Shawn Phillips, please visit ShawnPhillips.com.
And now, predictions!
Predictions!
All right, well, I've got two predictions then. Let's go. My first prediction is that with Pop Montreal, Freddie Varey and the Foundation are going to take over the entire music scene of Canada, North America, and the world.
And I predict that instead of suing us for the Ferns reference, Zach Galifianakis is going to come here for the next podcast and look at us sternly and make us feel very uncomfortable.
And second prediction, I'm going to say that Lady Gaga will play Montreal and play the longest show of the tour to give Montreal, again, a little extra special for the postponement. So that'll be done in the next 2 weeks. She's coming back.
And I predict that we're going to have a great time enjoying Hannah's birthday cake. Really, happy birthday again, Hannah.
Happy birthday. Let's cut it up.
Let's cut it up. And so that's thanks very much. We'll catch you in 2 weeks for another podcast.
We got to get into the cake.
Yeah.
The FTB podcast by the Forget the Box Media Collective in Montreal was hosted by Jason C. McLean and produced by Hannah Besseau. For daily, unique, original content covering news, music, politics, arts, lifestyles, food, film, you name it, we've got it. Check out forgetthebox.net.